Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a guided tour through a totally surreal, poetic afterlife, one that's really gonna force us to stop and examine how we're choosing to live our lives right now. We're exploring this deeply fascinating text called Invisible Cities of the Dead by Max and Claude. And wow, it is a journey into a place that completely defies all our traditional expectations of what happens after we're gone. So picture this. We arrive at an invisible city with bone-white walls and this rusted, wide-open gate. It's a place where the sun might literally hang in the sky for months on end, or night could just suddenly drop right in the middle of a sentence. Our narrator arrives here simply because, well, there's no road left behind them. It's this bizarre threshold state, a landscape where time and geography warp in ways that are deeply unsettling, but also surprisingly beautiful. Okay, let's dive into the core premise here, because this isn't just some random collection of spooky ghost stories. The quarters of this unnamed city actually act as physical manifestations of our own internal human struggles. Think about it. What if the coping mechanisms we use to survive our daily lives, our obsessions, our avoidance, our desperate need for control, what if those literally became the neighborhood you lived in for eternity? Crazy, right?
Section 1. The Labyrinths of Memory.
Our first stop on this tour of the human condition brings us to a district where the dead are defined entirely by what they hold on to, or conversely, what they let go of. And this brilliantly illustrates the juxtaposition of memory. On one side, we've got the quarter of infinite recollection. Here, a young man who died in a car crash takes that split second right before impact and stretches it out into an eternity of profound peace, just completely fixating on the sun reflecting off the hood and the dust motes floating in the air. But then, on the absolute opposite extreme, is the quarter of perpetual first encounter. Here, absolute amnesia reigns supreme. A child is playing with a ball, has absolutely no memory of her own name, and joyfully decides to just name herself Ball. It's this wild contrast, the heavy compounding weight of remembering every single hidden layer of a past argument versus the terrifying, completely unburdened freedom of complete amnesia, where you can love someone without even knowing why. In the district of recollection, some citizens even become the physical embodiment of their memories. Our narrator encounters this translucent mother who is permanently frozen in the act of waiting for her son. Her actual physical form has completely vanished, leaving behind only the crystallized essence of anticipation and anxiety. It begs this really profound question: are we slowly becoming the memories we obsess over?
Section 2. Time Twisted and Suspended.
Now, let's see how this builds, because if memory can trap us, time can completely unravel us. Notice the flow here in the quarter of reverse time. In this district, the dead are literally unliving. Children sit in classrooms specifically to unlearn mathematics, literally erasing numbers from their minds until they reach a state of pure ignorance. Smoke actually descends back into chimneys, rain falls upward, and there's a grieving mother waiting for her son to undie, looking forward to a point in the past where she can hold him again before he unbirths into non-existence. It's an incredibly moving, kind of heartbreaking perspective on grief and acceptance. But, in stark contrast, just across the invisible borders, we visit the quarter of waiting. This is a place of total suspended animation. People stand perfectly still at bus stops where literally no roads exist, or they wait at train stations where the departure boards are just completely blank. And they are utterly convinced that simply waiting is the purest form of existence. Like one woman says, the living wait too, but they pretend they're doing other things, calling it work or life. Here, waiting is just honest.
Section 3. The Metrics of Meaning.
Leaving time behind, we cross over into this highly structured domain where purpose, striving, and the relentless need to quantify absolutely everything totally takes over. The crucial point here is how the quarter of numbers vividly illustrates the sheer absurdity of reducing a qualitative, messy life into manageable quantitative data. The citizens here define themselves entirely by metrics. For example, one man catalogs his 1,406 micro-regrets, which includes the exact half-life of the sorrow he feels from stepping on a snail like 600 years ago. Another measures his morning sorrow at exactly 6.9 units. It's such a brilliant commentary on our modern obsession with tracking data, pushed to the absolute extreme, where one man's mind breaks just from counting how many things he's already counted. Right next door, we see a totally different kind of striving in the quarter of unfinished tasks. Here, the dead labor over impossible, endless chores. A man sweeps a floor that doesn't have a single speck of dust. A woman weaves an endless geometric cloth, and another endlessly repaints and then completely erases a perfectly beautiful portrait. So why do they do this? Well, as one resident explains, it's because completion is death. They have already died once. They absolutely will not die again by actually finishing something. They truly believe that as long as they are working, they are necessary. Finding a perfect apology, perfectly cooking a meal, or actually finishing that portrait means their existence would no longer be required. They are absolutely terrified of the empty space that follows completion.
Section 4. The fractured self.
As we wander deeper into the city, we finally encounter the most bizarre districts of all, places where the very concept of a unified identity just shatters completely. Over here, we see floating, disembodied fragments pooling their senses together just to experience the world more fully. I mean, 5 hands and 3 eyes from completely different people might group together just to build a chair, realizing they're actually more useful in pieces than they ever were whole. Contrasted against this is the quarter of exchanged lives. Here, whole people casually visit a repository of selves. They literally trade away their trauma, their boldness, their voices, or even their capacity for love, all just to escape the heavy burden of being themselves. Yet amidst all this swapping and running from the self, we find one man sitting all alone in a small house. He is the one person who refuses to trade. He insists that even if his life was small and painfully ordinary, he is not giving it up. He earned it, he suffered it, he owns it, because it was authentically his. It's this incredibly powerful anchor of humanity in a sea of completely fluid identities. Section 5. Where do you live? This entire explainer has been a tour of an imaginary afterlife, sure, but the profound realization hidden within these surreal texts is that you don't actually need to die to visit these quarters. We inhabit them every single day. We finally arrive at the Quarter of Questions, a fog-filled district where no answers exist, only a dizzying spiral of philosophical inquiry. The residents here answer questions only with more questions, bringing us right back to our own reality. Why are any of us here? It forces the lens right back onto you, the viewer. We really have to ask ourselves how we're navigating our own lives right now, based on what we've learned from these dead citizens. Are you trapped in the quarter of infinite recollection? Do you find yourself endlessly replaying a past argument, totally convinced that if you just analyze it one more time, you'll unlock some hidden piece that honestly was never even there? Or perhaps you're stuck in a threshold state. Are you residing in the quarter of waiting? Perpetually pausing your life for a promotion, a relationship, or some magical moment of readiness that may never actually arrive? Are you putting off joy and fulfillment for a future moment that is always just out of reach? Or maybe you're living in the quarter of numbers. It is so incredibly easy to trick ourselves into thinking that if we just measure our success, track our daily habits, count our regrets, and perfectly optimize our tasks, we can somehow solve the wonderfully messy equation of being human. But as we saw, trying to control infinite sorrow with pure data, it only breaks the human spirit. As we leave this invisible city behind, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Take a long, honest look around your own life, your habits, your avoidances, and your coping mechanisms, and ask yourself, which quarter are you choosing to live in today?